Hey guys, I'm going to show you really quickly today how you can sign in with Firebase and create an account if when you try to sign in, the account that you're trying to sign in with doesn't already exist. So, if I'm if I enter in my email address into an app that I want to use that I've never used and I don't have an account with it, I want it to automatically create me an account when I try to sign in and then take me to like my homepage or something. So this is really easy to do with something like Firebase, but there isn't a one API call that you can use. It's actually two. So you have to try and sign in the user first with the email address and password. And then if the user account doesn't exist, Firebase is actually going to give you an error code to tell you that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for this error code, and then if it gets returned from our call to sign in, we're going to create an account. So it's really straightforward. It's just not automatically adopted by Firebase. So there's not a call where you can just say sign in and create. You have to make the two calls. But once you know how to do it, it's really straightforward, and I'm going to show you now how that's done. So before I go any further, I'm just going to say that this assumes that you've already got a Firebase project set up and your Xcode project is set up as well for that Firebase project. You've got your plist downloaded from Firebase and you've got your Cocoa pods running. And yeah, I think that's all you need at this point. So I have very quickly put together a view controller that has two input text fields and a button to sign in. So the first one at the top here, that's just going to be for your email address. The bottom one is for the user's password, and then the sign in button, which when that taps, we're going to make a call to Firebase to try and sign the user in. So I've already hooked these up to our view controller, and this is the button. This is the function here that gets called when we tap our sign in button. And I've just put in a couple of guards to check whether the email address field isn't empty and the password that we want to use also isn't empty, as we don't want to sign in with empty credentials. There would be other stuff that you could do here in a production level app, like you'd want to validate that the email address actually is valid. There's plenty of stuff online that can show you how to do that. Likewise, for the password, maybe we'd want it to contain like at least 2 characters, or 5 or 6. I don't know. Like you'd want it to be more than a certain amount, say. But whatever. I'm not going to do any of that for now. So anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure you've got Firebase auth imported at the top of your view controller. And the first step is, I'm actually going to comment this, 1, sign in with this email address and password. So let's do that now. We're going to try and sign in. So it's auth, sign in with email and password. That's what we want. Email address, password. And the completion that we get back is we get this auth data result or an error. So I'm just going to fill this in real quick. If let error equals error. So if we got this far, if we didn't have an error from the sign in, then we can assume that we've signed in successfully. The user had an account already. So in this scenario, we're just going to jump to our did self.did login with result.user. And then just for sort of simplicity's sake, I'm going to print out I logged in, and then the user object, which is returned from Firebase, contains some information like email. So yeah, we'll get to this part in a second. But if we signed in, if we got this far, we didn't have an error, so we can assume that we logged in okay, we signed in, and then we're just going to pass the result across to our did login. But what if we did get an error? What do we do? So this is where it's not immediately obvious, but Firebase does actually return an error code for if the user was not found when trying to sign in. And we can check that here. And it's pretty straightforward. We just have to cast the error to an NS error so that we can grab the NS error code. And then we check whether that error code matches the error code provided by Firebase for when a user's account doesn't exist. It sounds more complicated than it is. I'm probably not explaining it well, so I'll just show you. But here we go. We can just say if error as NS error. So if the error's code equals, I think it's auth error code user not found, and we need to grab the raw value there. And then if we got this far, we will just say, actually, we'll just print the error out here. Error signing in. This is just for debugging purposes. So in this scenario, we've tried to sign in with their email address and password. We've got an error back from this call, and we've checked that the error code matches a user. The user wasn't found on the server, basically. So we can now assume, we can try and create the user's account. So auth, and it's the same API, auth.auth.create user with email and password. So for this, we just pass in the email address, pass in the password, and the completion block is the same. We get a data result back with an error. So we'll say result error. Again, we'll just look for the error. And this time I'm just going to print and say error creating user. Otherwise, we successfully created the account. And I'm just going to print so we can see it in the console. Created, print, signed in. And here I'm just going to say did login with user result dot user. Okay. So the first time we try this, we're not going to have a user account for the email address I'm going to pass in. So Firebase is going to return an error, and then we're going to try and create an account straight away with the same email address and password we tried to log in with. If there was an error, we're going to print it out. If not, we're going to just print that it was created so that we can just see it in the console. And then we're just going to jump straight to this point, which is the same function we call if we immediately signed in. Okay, so if we didn't have an error, this is where we jump to straight away. So once you've done this, before you even try to do any of this, you need to make sure that you've actually enabled email and password login with, email and password authentication with Firebase. So to do that, if you haven't already, just go to your Firebase project. I'm going to go from the project overview home just so that you know where to go. You can tap on authentication on the home screen or from the sidebar just here. You want to set up a sign-in method, and there's a bunch of options you can choose. I'm just going to be using the email and password option for now. Just tap the top one to enable. Don't worry about the passwordless sign-in for now, although that is a cool feature. Tap save, and now you should see the email password is enabled. And then at the top here, you're just going to check the users tab, and you can see that we've got no users yet for this project. So let's give it a whirl. I'm going to try building. I haven't tried this yet, so fingers crossed, eh? Now type in an email address. I'm going to put in mine. And then for the password, I'm just going to say that very good password of password. Bring this up so we can see it. Clear the console. And then I'm going to tap sign in. Okay, so you can see we hit created, and then we logged in with tim@timrichardson.co, which is the email address that I passed in. So that's great. Now if we go back to here, refresh our users, we can now see that I've got a user account that I've just created, which is great, with our user ID just here as well. So now if I try again, if I hit the sign in method again, I'm gonna see signed in, and I'm not gonna see created, because we're not gonna get an error code when we try to sign in because the account already exists. So try sign in. There you go, signed in. I logged in, no created, easy, done. And it's that simple to do. Sometimes you're not going to want to do this, but I often find it's really straightforward, really easy, and it's a nice way of kind of bundling in one screen, one sign-in screen, to make it a bit easier and a bit quicker for users to sign in and sign up and get them straight into the app where they can actually start enjoying it. So that's it, guys. I hope you found this useful, and hit the like button if you do, hit subscribe. I'm going to be adding some more stuff, and yeah, hope to see you guys soon. Ciao.